Hey, my name's Julian Faust. Welcome to the Profits and Panels podcast. Today I'm joined by Jackie Logan, the president of Raise Green. Jackie, thanks so much for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the chat.
Of course, yeah, and I'd love to get started by learning a bit more about your background. Where did you come from and how did you get to being the president of Raise Green today?
Sure. I'm a born and bred New York City gal, but also spent, I'd say, a quarter of my life on a dairy farm at the same time. And so I'm an immigrant kid, and just very, very early on, a couple of things that were driving forces in my being, if you will, and still are today. Number one, it's not what I take, it's what I give. So that just the feeling that I have a responsibility to contribute to my family, to my neighbor, to my community, and that we all have a part to play in that. And I don't deserve more than my share. Like, you sit on the subway and you know how sometimes some people will put their bag, and even though it's crowded, it's like, you got one seat, you paid for one seat, you don't have a right, you shouldn't make other people ask, just the concept of, yes, I can have my spot, but I need to contribute and not to demand more than my spot. Uh, and the concept of basically a shared space is where we live. And certainly growing up in New York City in the in the tight space I grew up in, I learned that very well. And then, of course, being on a dairy farm for a quarter of my life, I spent all my summers there and my weekends. I learned, nature is, if you take care of it, wonderful things come. If you don't take care of it, that's problematic. And just learn to love nature and the environment as a result of that. And so and just at the end of the day, got to work hard, educate yourself, and keep moving forward. And so those are kind of the overall principles that I grew up with and continue to drive me today. Went to business school. I had an undergraduate degree in chemistry and was very science oriented. And then I got out of college and tried marketing, realized that wasn't quite right for me, went back to business school, and I got bitten by the trading floor bug. I took a summer job at JP Morgan on the institutional bond trading floor there. I actually worked in the syndicate and worked on JP Morgan's first corporate bond offering since the Glass-Steagall Act was passed in the 1930s, and just decided that I absolutely had to be on a trading floor. I love the pace. I love the information that's coming at you. You are at the forefront of the news, what everybody's reading about later in the day. You're in the middle of hearing it as it's coming in, and its impact on the markets, and the movement of large amounts of capital to actually see things get done, and juggling a lot of balls in the air. And I just absolutely loved it. After I graduated, I worked at JP Morgan for about 12 years on the trading floor, covering big clients like Vanguard and large banks and large insurance companies. And after that journey, saw a gap in the market and actually joined a startup back in 2000 that was developing, in the early dot-com days, was developing an online trading platform, which today we're like, of course, but back then, not so much, to help facilitate the movement of illiquid assets. And so there are assets that are very liquid out there, such as like an IBM bond, right? Everybody knows IBM, 5 years, 7 years, whatever the bond is. But if you have some sort of unique offering that had been distributed to the market and an investor who had purchased it wants to sell it, it's very difficult to sell. And so joined up with a great team, and we worked on that for a while. And then got bitten by the startup bug. I loved it. It was fabulous. And then we lost our funding because of the dot-com bubble, and had September 11th, 2001 here in New York, and it was a little bit crazy. And I decided to step out and work in more the nonprofit field for a while and just kind of get a different flavor. And though I loved it, I knew that I had to go back to the trading floor at some point. And so Around 2010, the role of compliance was just growing dramatically because the regulations were growing dramatically. After the 2000 financial crisis, there all of a sudden was an explosion of regulations. And if you're in the business, here's the regulation, but then how do you develop policies, procedures? How do you train people to understand what the regulation is for their business, right? Like, how do I actually live it in the size of my business and the nature of my business? And so that's the role of compliance. And so I decided, I don't want to sell. I don't want to trade. What else could I do? And I said, let me give a shot at compliance. And so I joined Goldman Sachs in 2010, started on the institutional side, and then ultimately traveled over to the private wealth side, which was amazing. And so now I was overseeing all the trading activity for private wealth across all assets, from equities to options to fixed income, currencies, the whole gambit. So it was super exciting to work on all products. But then in addition, I had the opportunity to oversee some asset management desks, which I had always been selling to asset management desks. Like Vanguard is an asset manager, right? So they manage a lot of money, but I had never been on the side of an asset manager. And so because some of the desks I covered were actually managing client money, I got to be on that side. And as a result of that, got to work with them as they were developing certain money management strategies. And that's when they were developing their early ESG strategies. And I realized that given my passion for the capital markets and private capital moving, and I saw the limitations of ESG strategies at the time, I just decided that I needed to, for my next thing, I wanted to figure out how do I take my years of working with, retail clients, private wealth clients, institutions, my understanding of the capital markets and how securities move, and how do I use that to actually get private capital moving directly into what was my personal passion, which was climate. I just felt, we don't have time to waste. We need to get moving and not be moving puzzle pieces around. And we need to just give folks that really want to put private capital directly into climate an opportunity to do so. But then how do I do that? And as life would be, by chance, I met my two co-founders during Climate Week in 2019. They had just started Raise Green with the idea to get more folks involved in climate and to get more money into climate using Regulation CF, which was a brand new regulation in 2016 and just beginning to get figured out by the market. A climate a policy guy, had worked for Obama for 8 years and helped negotiate the Paris Agreement. And my other co-founder, a climate data scientist, measuring how fast the permafrost was melting in Siberia. And they came together at Yale School master's program and met there and came up with the idea of Raise Green, but didn't have the securities experience and the client experience and all those kinds of things. And then when I met them and I'm thinking, how do I get private capital moving directly into climate? We were a perfect match. And so Raise Green was created in order to, at its very highest level, get more money into climate and give more people an opportunity to get involved. How do we do that? We became a funding portal, a very special organization that can work with U.S. entities across the United States who are doing something in the climate solution space and get them up on our fully online platform. And we are registered with the SEC. We are experts in this regulation, and we can get a fully compliant offering open to the general public. If you are 18 years and older, you can invest in a crowdfunding offering, regardless of what your income and net worth are. Anybody can invest $2,500. And if you want to invest more, then there are a few income and net worth checks, and those are investor protections that are put in place by the SEC. And if you happen to be an accredited investor, you can invest unlimited amounts. But the bottom line is, at the end of the climate march, many folks say to themselves, well, what do I do now? I'm composting, I'm recycling, I have an electric car, I'm trying to cut down on this. I want to do more. And we say, hey, jump on Raise Green, take a look at the different projects and companies that are posting on our platform. They're looking to raise capital, and you can see what their use of proceeds are, what they're planning to do, and what the potential impact is, and make a decision. You can invest today as little as $100. And so Raise Green was created in order to facilitate the movement of private capital into climate-related solutions and enable anybody to participate, not just folks with lots of wealth, folks without lots of wealth, but want to invest today. And so that is the story of Raise Green. We started with the idea that we wanted to see a solar array on every commercial and industrial sized building across the United States and open it up to the community to own it. We built software with IBM in order to facilitate this, and we learned that it's very challenging. Projects are very challenging. This was before the IRA and other things, and they take a long time. They're quirky. And at the same time, we had loads of folks coming to us wanting to raise capital for energy efficiency projects, new climate technologies. And so we said, let's not just focus on solar projects. Let's open this up and give a broader range of folks working in climate a chance to raise capital and bring in their community to invest in them. And so that's the story of Raise Green. And in December of 2024, after 44 securities offerings, raising over 10 million through the platform and developing an impact investor base of about 3,500, we were acquired by Honeycomb Credit, a larger platform with more technology, an existing investor base, and super excited about growing their climate corner. Hadn't had the expertise before, but had the interest from their investor base. And so we decided to join up with them. Now it's Raise Green powered by Honeycomb, and we're adding offerings to the platform and growing it and open for anybody who would like to chat with me if they're looking to raise capital, or if anyone's looking to invest in climate solutions, you can either reach out to me or just jump on the platform and take a look at what's available.
Yeah, and so I know you guys are growing at the moment, and Honeycomb didn't acquire you. So has that helped you guys in acquiring more clients or people and investors on your platform? Like, on top of that, what's been the best way you guys have acquired people to invest on the platform? Do you
Sure.
run ads? Like, how do people become aware of this sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. So that's a challenge to get the word out, because a lot of people don't know that this exists. Both on the issuer side, the folks needing to raise capital don't know. Many folks don't know about it as an avenue, and many folks don't know that there's an opportunity to invest. And so getting the word out is super important. Being on podcasts like this, going to panels, participating in panels, writing blogs, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the biggest ways that a crowdfunding platform grows their community is when a project or a business comes onto the platform to raise capital, it is expected that that business or project is going to reach out to their loyal following and bring them to the platform in order to invest in it, right? And because if your community isn't going to invest in you, why should someone not in your community is a good question, right? So we expect those folks to bring their community, and many of those folks that come to invest in because they're invited to come invest in a particular offering, stay on and go on to invest in other things. And we see about 35% of the folks go on and do that. And that's how, in part, a crowdfunding platform builds out its basic investor base. We now at Honeycomb have about 25,000 folks, and a large part of that has been grown through this kind of effect. But, as much as we can get the word out to folks, we are trying to do that.
What's the draw for a business that wants people to invest in them to say, hey, I'm joining the Raise Green platform. How about you guys invest into my business here, versus just doing it outside the platform? Or am I missing the concept of what's going on at Raise Green?
Sure. So if you want to raise capital, raise money, generally from the public, from people, typically, if you're not going to a bank to get a loan, right? If you go there, you can go get a loan, right, from a bank. And, there's certain other ways to go about raising capital. But if you want to issue equity or debt in the form of a security, like a debt note or a security, you got to do it under the regulations of the SEC. Regulation crowdfunding is an exemption that was created in 2016 in order to enable small to medium-sized businesses to issue securities to the public in a very public manner, with a relatively low lift in terms of cost and time. There are other ways to issue securities and raise capital. One of the most common ways for private companies to do it is to do what's called to raise capital under a different exemption called Reg D. And so many folks will be aware of that. And that's how a lot of private companies raise capital, is under that regulation. However, there are other hoops and requirements in order to do that. Anybody that comes in to invest under Reg D has generally, there's some wiggle room around that, has to be an accredited investor. And that means that you and others and myself probably couldn't invest in it. Regulation crowdfunding is a very specific regulation, which enables you to, get your raise up relatively quickly. You have to work with a funding portal based on the regulation, and we help you move through that process super fast. And then it can be open to anybody who's 18 years and older, not just accredited investors. So one, if you're raising capital in the form of securities, there are various different regulations it's all under the 1933 Securities Act, which basically says you have to register your offering, if you're going to, let's say, issue debt, with the SEC if you want it to be a fully publicly registered security. Have you heard the word IPO?
Yeah.
Right. So an initial public offering means that a company has gone through the very rigorous process of going to the SEC. They review everything, approve. You can't do that as a little company. You don't have the resources to do a fully registered offering. You have to do some sort of little smaller thing, which has limitations and things like that, because it's not a fully big registered offering, are important avenues for folks to raise capital. And so Reg CF is one of those ways. If you want to raise 50 million in a pop, don't do it via Reg CF, because your cap is 5 million in a year, right? There are other exemptions to registration that you can use. But if you're looking to raise anywhere from 50,000, 25,000 to 5 million, I think the sweet spot is somewhere between 100K and a million. And, you're excited about engaging your community and working with the funding portal to get your offering up, then Reg CF is a great avenue for folks.
Where would you say for Raise Green, what do you guys want to grow to in the next 12 to 24 months? Do you have a number of investors you'd like to join the site? Do you have a number of businesses you want to be on it? Do you have a revenue goal for you guys? What are you thinking there?
Sure. Well, we are definitely in the expansion mode. So we would love to have more folks up on our platform raising capital. They're, love to see, 3 to 5 new offerings every month, 6 offerings. Love to see more issuers that love to repeat offerings, and love to see larger offerings. And on the investor side, yeah, we want to continue to grow that actively, because a piece of what we wanted, not every issuer who has an amazing project or, something that should get done has a big community of folks. And so we want to be able to support those projects. So we're definitely looking at growing the investor community. And that includes $100 investors all the way up to very experienced investors and we've had people invest significant amounts of money into a crowdfunding raise. We're interested in growing on both sides.
Yeah. Jackie, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can our audience learn more about Raise Green online and also find out more about yourself?
So great. Well, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Jacqueline E. Logan. So you can reach out to me there. And just in terms of you now being part of Honeycomb, you can just jump on honeycombcredit.com/Raise Green. We'll take you straight to the Raise Green corner of the website, or you can just jump on the main website as well, and you will see a lot of the different offerings there. Honeycomb has tended to be small businesses and local communities, but there's opportunity to invest and make an impact in everything that's on the platform.
Thank you, Jackie.
Wonderful.